Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a great show for you tonight as we're going to be talking about a number of good topics. The first one, of course, being some of the big takeaways from the January 6th hearing, the last hearing. And this last one was a doozy as they have officially subpoenaed former President Donald Trump for his involvement in the January 6th attack. So we'll have that conversation. Also, can we talk about certain movies like Till, Emancipation, movies that are showing and depicting the struggle of Black people in this country, but are these movies necessary for us to look at our struggle as entertainment? We look into the question. Plus, I got to share with you what Reverend Al Sharpton say about manhood and voting for gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams, and asking the big question, do you think it's right? Do you believe that men have a problem with women in leadership? We have that conversation and a whole lot more. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in, and happy Friday. Man, oh man, we got a lot to get to, so let's jump right into it as we talk about the latest that has happened with the January 6th committee that had their committee hearing yesterday without any witness testimonies, just putting a bow on the bigger case. Yes, we've seen what happened behind the scenes of what led up to the attack on the Capitol. But more importantly, the big question is, how has former President Donald Trump, the role that he played, and will he finally stand before the American people and the committee to talk about what really happened and what he saw happening on January the 6th? Take a look at this, folks. This is part of the big central question that many people are wondering, that, is the committee able to bring former President Donald Trump to account for all of the things that happened on January the 6th? And it's a big question, very, very big question. Analysts, political, legal, all types of analysts across the board are having varying answers. But most people tend to believe that President Trump will not testify. But it was reported by Business Insider, New York Times, and then other outlets that the president said he would testify as long as the testimony is broadcasted live. Of course, this is Donald Trump. We know that he loves the attention, so I'm certainly not surprised. But let's talk a little bit about some of the big takeaways coming from the January 6th hearing. And I'm joined by my brother Rashad, who is talking to us about, just to give his insight. Culture crew member Rashad Statton, who is a nonprofit leader. He's also an activist and an advocate, and just one of many bright and brilliant minds that we have across this country to talk about these issues of politics. Rashad, thank you so much, brother, for joining us this afternoon. How you feeling?
All is well, brother. All is for the culture, brother. I'm excited about this conversation here, man. I can't believe
I know you are. I know you are. Rashad, let's talk a little bit about what we saw on yesterday's hearing, and there were a lot of big takeaways. There were a lot of things that were said, but the biggest thing, of course, is former President Donald Trump has been subpoenaed by the January 6th committee that is composed of both Democrats and Republicans, and Benny Thompson said that they needed answers. This is the Democratic, the representative, Benny Thompson, who leads the committee. He said we need to call President Trump to the table, because the American people deserve some answers about what really happened and how far-reaching, and did President Trump instigate this situation? I'm using that term, the same term that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi used in this. And I want to show this very quickly. This was some of the compelling video. Some of you may have seen it, others may have not seen it, but check out just a little bit of the video that was taken by Nancy Pelosi's daughter on January the 6th, when lawmakers had to evacuate the chambers and they had to be put into a safe space. Take a look.
Call up the effing Secretary of DOD. We have some senators who are still in their hideaways. They need massive personnel now. Can you get the Maryland National Guard to come too?
I have something to say, Mr. Secretary. Well, I'm going to call the mayor of Washington, D.C. right now and see what other outreach she has to other police departments, as Leader Hoyer has mentioned.
Get him up!
Hi, Governor. This is Nancy. Governor, I don't know if you have been approached about the Virginia National Guard. Mr. Hoyer was speaking to Governor Hogan, but I still think you probably need the okay of the federal government in order to come into another jurisdiction. Thank you. Oh my gosh, they're just breaking windows. They're doing all kinds of. It's really that they said somebody was shot. It's just horrendous, and all at the instigation of the President of the United States. Okay, thank you, Governor. I appreciate what you're doing, and if you don't mind, I'd like to stay in touch. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Virginia Guard has been called in.
You know, I'm just talking to Governor Northam, and what he said is they sent 200 of state police and a unit of the National Guard. They're breaking windows and going in, obviously ransacking our offices and all the rest of that. That's nothing. The concern we have about personal safety is it just transcends everything. But the fact is, on any given day, they're breaking the law in many different ways. And quite frankly, much of it at the instigation of the President of the United States. And now, if he could at least somebody.
Yeah, why don't you get the President to tell them to leave the Capitol, Mr. Attorney General, in your law enforcement responsibility. A public statement, they should all leave. This cannot be just we're waiting for so-and-so. We need them there now.
Hey, Rashad, I think Chuck Schumer hit the line of the year. Why don't you just do your job, Mr. Attorney General? When I saw that, I was done, bro. He's like, wait a minute, hold on. And why don't you just do your job, okay? And tell people, as a law enforcement official, and tell them, get the hell out of here.
Like, let's prioritize public safety as the first thing. Like, why not do that, right? It was very disturbing to watch that entire video, right? You can see the disarray of emotions, uncertainties. You can see the gathering of minds, and being someone that worked on Capitol Hill numerous times, knowing how the chambers works, the different routes that our elected officials and the support staff take, and seeing them usually go into this space of camaraderie or times of conversational pieces, but now using those spaces as a safe haven. I can only imagine the influx of emotions, uncertainties that they were going through, and it's emotional to see this. But like, if we're going to talk about for the culture, for Raji, I want to lift up this idea, right? If we are watching on the same public platforms, news publications, and things of that sort, of them taking now artists, right, verses, their rhymes to incriminate them and use this as solid evidence to bring up federal and state RICO charges. Why isn't videos like this sufficient enough for us to hold our elected officials and to see us get justice in the most expedited time frame? Have we ever seen something this of such national security that has been infringed, right, and imposed by the highest ranking leader supposedly in this country, be then held to this elongated process where we have enough information, enough recordings, enough audios, enough visual representation, and the loss of lives that shows that someone interrogated and actually agitated this process of harm and national security? Why is it taking so long for us to get justice and hold someone accountable of a lighter skin when we are using such low standards and such things that infringe on our rights of conversation, of communication, and things of that sort to go to the darker hued people? If this was any other top rapper, if this was any other elected official, I mean, they even mentioned calling out the mayor and the governors of Maryland and things of that sort. Baltimore City elected officials and our mayors in the last few cycles don't get this much time frame to get their stories together, to be protected, to decide whether they want the level of freedom of expression to hold things on their own time once being subpoenaed. I'd never seen this before. It's like watching a TV show. It's like the House of Cards and things of that sort. Like, what is being laid out at the end of the table, right? It's mind-boggling.
It's Game of Thrones, bro. It's like Game of Thrones or something. I don't know. I don't know. And I think you're right on point, Rashad. Like, at the end of the day, bro, like, we're seeing very compelling video. We're seeing all of this, and it's still. Look, I thought one of the big things that I saw, and I know there were like many, some of the news sites are talking about these takeaways, but you literally had Republican leaders watching Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer take action. Now, again, this is a documentary that was filmed by her daughter, so maybe she didn't, film the part of the Republican leader. Maybe she wanted to show her mother in a very heroic light, right? Which is fine. But I mean, they huddled around. They're trying to figure out, like, how she, because Pelosi's calling all the people, Schumer calling these people. They trying to organize and arrange stuff to happen. Mitch McConnell standing in the huddle. He looking like he waiting for instruction. He is just as afraid of losing his life, that more so than Pelosi and Schumer. But yet, that very point that you made, he comes out all dignified, tries to come out as being, the moral authority. He speaks out against the president, but then at the same time, he doesn't totally impeach him. He impeaches him, but he doesn't get him removed from office. So, I mean, it's mind-blowing, the level of loyalty. Yeah. The level of loyalty that these lawmakers had, and I'm speaking on the other side, these GOP lawmakers had. When you just saw like the video, I mean, I think that I as many times as I've seen January 6th footage, it's still like shocking that this actually happened, bro. Yeah, this actually happened. And really, it's like you knew that situation could have gone left. Like, could you? I mean, I know we keep saying like if it were Black Lives Matter or Black folks doing that, it would have been a different story. But it's just shocking that this was happening, man. It's still shocking to me.
It's the moment in the video that you just showed where Speaker of the House Pelosi actually says, we know that this has been led, right, and initiated by the President of the United States. It's like, what, you are the third ranking highest official in the country that is openly admitting on camera that they are well and well informed and know not by happenstance that he perpetuated these actions and caused these things to happen. It's like, what else do you know, right? And then it calls into play, like, what else do you know? Who else needs to be subpoenaed and give a testifying? But at a certain point, when we look at other places at this large of a magnitude, of this level of national security, we know that our government do not take this long to get processes and procedures in place. What else is not being discussed? What else is being known? And how does he have this level of autonomy to continue to play to the people's emotions and try to belittle the functioning of our government and hold him accountable as elected official? I mean, I understand the clauses, but the clause afterwards, when is he now up for exception to actually be held accountable?
Right. Let me share a couple of comments from my online culture crew. Folks are checking in. Janae, you checked in and said, Rashad, white supremacy doesn't have rules for the imploding on itself. This is why it is so hard for them.
Can't use
Yeah, that's
master's
true.
tools to dismantle master's house. I agree, Janae. I agree.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Janae. Dirty Red 76, you said this is nothing new. This is America. It's always happening, except now we have technology. Yeah. But see, here's the thing. And I hear people kind of mention those things like this has always been happening. But Dirty Reds and Culture Crew and family, like if we really look at this, this is so historic. This creates such a precedent, right? Like we weren't living during the American Revolution, right? We weren't living
just about
during the
to say
Civil War. We weren't living during these very big moments of civil discord in this country.
Mm-hmm.
We were living and we were watching, and we had all felt a range of emotions from January the 6th, right? And even now, like we're still like it to be, let's keep it real, folks. How many of us actually think that this is going to be the only demonstration of quote unquote resistance from white men from this point forward? How many of us really truly believe that this was it? Because I don't.
It's certainly not
I
it.
really don't, bro. I think this was like a failed attempt. You know what I mean? Because they didn't obviously think this thing to the point to they just wanted to bust up in there and just create some havoc and just disrupt. But I bet you, and I'm not calling for it, I'm just saying the way things are going, there are some people within those circles, within those spaces that's going to be like, all right, here's where we went right, but here's where we went wrong. And the next time we're going to try to do something else. Because I just don't see it. Things haven't quote unquote gotten better for those groups that were storming the Capitol on that day. Things haven't gotten better. Matter of fact, things have gotten worse for them, right? Because we see certain policies now. We're seeing that there's a certain level of crackdown from the law enforcement agencies to the Department of Justice. People are getting arrested. People are losing homes. So you talking about just feeding into the level of dissatisfaction, feeding into the anger. Because now the anti-government sentiment has become stronger and stronger in this country. This is not something that we can just gloss over and be like, all right, that just happened because Trump is out of office. This could potentially happen again.
And like you
That's
said,
what I'm saying, Rashad.
And if it's not assessed, not properly held and processed to the furthest extent, this does not set a precedent that will have this altering trickle down impact on even us as a people down to our everyday lives. This is like we said, our audience is saying this. This is a test run to something. And if our government don't get it right, and if we don't put systems in places which is supposed to be checks and balances, and if we're not operating off of the functionality of how this government is, it leaves a very gap in this gray area that will be detrimental to us all. And I love the fact that you're calling out this. You know, me and you are both history lovers. It's the fact of recognizing history in the present moment. This is when we had our own civil wars. This is when we are experiencing espionage amongst our own citizens and amongst countrymen, that we must be at the furthest extent being critical thinkers to say, hey, if this gets pushed under the rug and we don't hold our people accountable, we're not self-aware, even if we don't have the influence of pen, but if we're not self-aware to pay attention to this, we're passing down this as a gateway of more things that can be detrimental to our country for further generations. I don't want my son to have to deal with this. I
agree with you. I agree with you. Let me ask you this very quickly, Rashad. What's the likelihood you think former President Trump is going to actually testify? Because he's saying he will testify in front of a live national audience.
I'm starting to get Trump and Kanye confused. They're starting to seem like the same person on a lighter note. It's everything has to play to their propaganda. Everything has to be live. It's one of these ones that saying, hey, I will testify, but I'll go live. Hey, we already know this man doesn't have a filter. And we know that he knows more than what the public has been sharing, to the point that I don't think they will allow him to testify live. One, it's a slip up and something that needs to be of national security and confidentiality may be exposed, as well as he will turn it into his own show. And I think what they won't do is Trump has no problem calling other people out.
Well,
Right. And
here's the
those
thing, though.
other folks, they won't let that happen. People
Hey, look,
lie.
his advisors are telling him, and I agree with you. I agree with you. Trump doesn't slip up. He doesn't slip up. And here's why I say that. He's very intentional about putting somebody on blast. He's very intentional about saying something about somebody. He's very intentional, right? So let me just say this, though. His advisors have been telling him, Mr. President, don't do it because you're under oath.
Mm-hmm.
You get up on that stand and you lie, you will perjure yourself. You are under oath. And guess what he can't do? Tell the truth. But see, his ego gonna have to be, if this man decides to come before the committee that has been orchestrating an onslaught of like a campaign on him, and he decides to come before the committee thinking that he can change the American people, boy, please. You talking about movies? This joint would be the biggest blockbuster of the decade.
Oh man, it's like
this committee been talking about this dude for months.
He's gonna let it ring. He's gonna let it ring, and you're gonna have. It was like I remember this social media when they asked the older women from down south to come and testify. She said, "You don't want me to say anything, Judge, because I know about the prosecutor and I know about your life." I don't think they want him. Like you said, he's gonna reveal something, and he's gonna call to himself. And the fact that he's under oath is now gonna hold it to a level of either he tells it all and he puts it all on the table, or he's going to have the likelihood of perjury. I think this needs to be the most watched thing if it does happen, because we'll get a sense of who else had their hands in this play.
Absolutely,
I think it's quite interesting. I think he will. I think he will. I think he wants to, but I don't think it will allow it to happen.
And that's the point. I think he wants to as well. He reminds me of the character from A Few Good Men. Y'all remember the old school movie with Jack Nicholson, Tom Cruise, and Kevin Bacon? Y'all remember that? Yeah.
And he hit the real line.
And they were like, you can't bring Jack Nicholson to the stand. And he said, John Cruise, like, why not? He said, if you bring him to the stand, you're going to have to get him into a place where he needs to see. And it's like one of those moments. Like you bring him to the stand, he's going to go down the line, and then at a certain point, you got to take him to break him, and then you can't handle the truth. I did it, because he got it, because his ego won't allow him to not feel like he doesn't have power. So he's going to be like, you're damn right I did it. You're damn right I instigated. You're damn right. Because they my
that's
fault.
When it all self-destructs. Yep.
Self-destruction. All right, let's go take a couple of comments before we take a break here. Taylor, you said many of these crazies weren't living when Black people could not participate in the democratic system, but yearned for it with a passion. Taylor, I agree with you, but you're looking at this too logically. This is not logical. This was not logical in the sense of how you may be looking at it, how me and Rashad may be looking at it. You know that. But this is not logical. Like when you talk to some of these people, and I'm not saying all of them, because I think some of them are still drinking the Kool-Aid, but when you talk to some of these folks, you would have thought that it was like they were under a trance on January the 6th. When I heard the testimony a few months back, remember they had one of the guys from a few rioters testify, talking about how they lost their home and their jobs and all of this stuff. They got arrested and crying crocodile tears. And I believe Trump, but that's exactly what you would have thought they were in an alternate reality, a different universe, because now they finally woke up to the lies. Okay, whatever. But I hear you, Taylor. Sandy, you checked in. You say he sees things from a political angle. He doesn't realize this stuff is way more than just politics. Say the wrong thing, he is going to see a prison cell. Say the wrong thing, he's not just the prison thing. And look, I don't know about any one of you, and Rashad, I don't know how you feel about this. I'm not even thinking about prison for Donald Trump at this point. I'm not even thinking about prison, because if the dude hasn't been brought to any real charges at this point, like, I think prison would be a reprieve for this guy. You gotta like embarrass him.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget at the White House Correspondents' Dinner that Barack Obama was at, and Trump was sitting in the audience. Y'all remember this? Y'all ever seen the clip? And Obama goes in on Trump, talking about the whole birther thing, you know, him not being born in America, like just going in on his thinking. And Trump is sitting there, and you can see he is fuming. He is just sitting there like, yup, I got you. Yup, I got you. And I think that was like back in 2011 or something, or 2012 or something like that. But embarrassment. You're not thinking about prison. The greatest thing is this dude operates from a place where if you got to embarrass him, you got to embarrass him.
And it brings to that place of like, all right, when do we see whiteness confronts itself, right? Because he's been promoted as with the ideal of you know, build yourself up by the bootstrap, this American dream, second generation leader that becomes this political force. And now he's calling into question our whole governmental structure. So will we see these two systems of whiteness battle each other on a national televised airway? I don't think so, because it puts them at the forefront of having a house that is divided. And we've seen this within the political structures. But when it comes down to public humiliation and the castration of a white man, we have yet to see this in America on such a large platform.
There it is. Paul Delaney, you checked in. You said with Trump, it never was loyalty, it was fear. Trump could destroy their careers. Facts, Paul. That is huge facts. Thank you, Paul. P. Jackson, you said if he doesn't take the fifth, he'll lie and or throw everyone else under the bus to save himself. Yes, he will. P. Jackson, you know it like I know it. Yes, he will. Gwendolyn, you checked in. You said he needs to testify live. He can't hold water. Perjurer himself, lie, and dry snitch out his friends. Yep.
He was consistent with that throughout his whole administration.
Right. Hey, that's how he got to become president. And Leela, Calhoun, you checked in and you said you hit it right on the nail. Absolutely. He wants to do that, and he wants to say, you knew I was a sneak when you heard me. Man. Look, folks, we will see. Of course, the president is putting out all types of things that to the spaces so people can kind of, oh, is he going to do it? He's not going to do it, or who is going to do it? He knows what he's doing. He understands. He loves the circus. He loves the frantic, chaotic nature of things. So he's definitely putting it out there, but we will have to see. All right, folks, look, Rashad, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about, we're talking about the political side of things, political theater. I want to talk about entertainment, as there are two major movies that depict the struggles of Black Americans that will be featured this month. The movie Till, about the story of Emmett Till, but more focused on his mother, Mamie Till, and then the movie Emancipation on Apple Plus, the movie that features Will Smith. And many people are wondering, it hasn't come out yet, but the trailer would drop this month. But people are saying, is the entertainment, is our struggle being depicted in such an entertainment fashion? Is this really good? Is this good for others, but is it terrible for us? How far should we allow our history to be told through Hollywood? Very, very delicate line. And it's a line that we need to talk about. Stay with us. That conversation comes up next right here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
Woo! hatred on the streets. A horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. Let's shift the conversation and talk about from politics to entertainment and history. Now, Michael Arceneaux, who is a New York Times bestselling author, wrote a piece for the online publication, theroot.com. He poses this narrative about Black films depicting our struggle, films about Black oppression becoming harder for me to stomach. And then the byline is that when you look at that, which I think is interesting, as it becomes harder for us to stomach and become more tiring, he's asking the question, like, is it necessary for others to see it? And so I wanted to, I was really inspired to have this conversation based on this, because the two films in particular that he's talking about are the films Till, which talks about the struggle and the heroicism of Mamie Till, the mother of Emmett Till. So the film looks not just at what happened to Emmett, but more importantly, how Mamie Till stepped up.
Small.
So take a look at that right there, folks.
The first time I heard about the Emmett Till.
So that's the first film. And then the second film that he talks about is Emancipation, which is the new Apple Plus film starring Will Smith, where Will Smith plays
I heard it myself.
a man who has been enslaved.
Slaves
and in both films, once again, we as Black Americans, we have looked at this situation, and our story is being told, of course, through the lens of Hollywood. And especially with Emancipation, you have a multi-million-dollar superstar in Will Smith playing an enslaved Black man. He plays the real life person of Peter, who was enslaved, separated by his family. And Peter is the one who has the infamous photo. And at some point, Keenan, we got to find this photo of the whelped back. He was the one whose back was to the camera, had whelps on his back because of all the whippings that he had to endure while he was enslaved. So Michael Arsenault put this idea out there about the necessity of seeing our story being depicted time and time and again, and how he's tired but still feel obligated to go see these films, to still feel obligated to take a look at our history through this lens. But one part of this piece that I wanted to highlight, and then we're going to bring Rashad in, and I want to hear what you folks have to say about this. He said this, take a look. He said, writers like Keisha N. Blaine, and this is Michael Arsenault, he said, writers like Keisha N. Blaine argued at the time of the Tills trailer release, quote, this is from the writer Keisha, she said, for as long as racism and white supremacist violence operate as powerful forces in the U.S., and they obviously do, we will need films such as Till so we don't lose sight of where we have been, where we are, and where we need to go. Blaine is correct, and this is Michael talking, saying Blaine is correct while movies like Till are not only worthy of being made, but vital with respect to, in essence, keeping America honest. I plan to see Till, albeit largely out of obligation. But ultimately, I hope each film's success will not totally lay at the feet of Black people. After all, many of us already know where we have been, where we are, and where we need to go. And now more than ever, that can feel exhausting. That is not to disparage those films and those behind them. It's simply to say many of us are simply tired and want escapism like anyone else. Both Till and Emancipation look like important movies, so I disagree with the critique that films like these perpetuate Black trauma and should be avoided. Even so, it is hard to argue with Black folks who say they are tired of watching us be brutalized as entertainment again and again when we have to contend with that reality every day of our lives. So folks, what say you? Is entertainment about our struggle necessary for others, even though it may be tiring for us? Let's bring Rashad back into the conversation. And folks, I encourage you to join us in the conversation as well, and post your thoughts on YouTube, Facebook, and all of our streaming platforms. Rashad, what's your take of this, bro?
Oh man, let's try to piece this onion, because it's so much. I think we've had these conversations year after year. When one of them hit the, we get a story like these produced on this large Hollywood level every 3 to 4 years, right? And I think it brings back this conversation. But this article makes a few great points, and I wanted to lift up my response from the article. And the comments made from those that mentioned in the article. I think we may not, and I think they made a great point. We may be tired and fatigued at experiencing it, observing it because of the over accessibility and exposure of our trauma, our castrations, our murders, the questioning of Black lives versus white lives, that we may not be dehumanized, but we are exhausted with having to experience it and observe it, right? But I bring us back to where we are today, and we're starting to see an influx of the other narratives and the other stories of how it portrays us, that I think we need to have this delicate balance, right? After having a great film like The Woman King, and months later we get the Emmett Till story, it gives us this balance of where we were, where we are, and where we are going, that this generation can see this large spectrum of the Black diaspora experiencing specifically to this country. I myself am tired of seeing other slave reenacted movies, but I enjoy it when those stories talk on the historical relevance, and it's a real person. And it talks about someone that has transcended even the most oppressive states, but still found a way to be honorable, to be dignified, or fight some level of oppression to get some sense of liberation and freedom. I think those are important. But I also think this is calls into play the timeliness of stories like the Emmett Till case, because we just seen, the urge of making sure that the woman that falsely accused him is now held accountable 60 plus years after the fact. So the fact that we can watch something on screen while still living through it in the present moment talks about the fight and this need for continuation of us to be mobile, to be aware, and to be self-conscious of where we need to go as a community. Now, I purposely believe, yes, Hollywood will continue to purposely fund slave movies so that we can always be perceived by others as less than. And my last point is, even in my work today, now meeting a larger diversity of people, I tell them I'm tired of sharing my Black experience. Tell me about you. Tell me about you. You study me so much that you may know me more than I know myself, but I know nothing about you besides your name. So I don't share my Blackness no more. I use it as my valuable gem. You won't know my story. What's your story? Because once they start sharing it, I'll be like, oh, that sounds like
my story.
Yours. Yeah. So what do you think about yours? How would you want to lift yourself up? That's just mine, right? This one topic brings up so many different outlooks. The level of dehumanization, purposeful budgeting to continuously put this story of us, but it's also timely and needed because this generation is so in flux with things that 14 and 13-year-olds are still going missing, are still being murdered, are still being chased down, and we are still not seeing white perpetrators being held accountable.
And you know what? And I think this is like a double-edged sword, right? Like you want people to know the history, but then at the same time for us, like for example, let me just put it out this way. Okay, so here in LA, if you go into like Inglewood in South LA, where predominantly Black folks are, right, in Los Angeles, like in Inglewood, they got this big, huge billboard with the Till trailer running 24 hours a day, right? Huge billboard right over, right, and I forgot the street name, but it's a huge billboard and it's running Till. You driving down the street, and this is right now, like you drive down the street, they got Till posters all plastered in the Black community. Now, if you go to West Hollywood, I see a couple of Till billboards, but it's not nearly as much as what we see in predominantly Black areas. So I think there is something to this idea about us. It's like the marketing strategies for a lot of these movies is for us, which is counterintuitive because the movie is about us. So it means like most of us should know the story. Like I'm talking about Till in particular. Emmett Till his story is one of the most important turning points of the civil rights movement. Every Black adult, I don't care how super conscious or conscious you are, you should know the story of Emmett Till. Every child that can learn and understand, Black child, should know the story of Emmett Till. From 7 to 8 years old, or even 7, they should know the story. So I think it's interesting that the way these movies are coming out, the audience that you try to bring in, I feel like basically it's the wrong audience. We know the story. Michael said it in his we know the story.
But I feel like they know the story as well.
Yeah, but see, if the movie, and look, and I'm not gonna crap on the story of, I'm not gonna crap on the movie because the family of Emmett Till, Mamie Till, and the family, they have blessed this movie to happen. So folks, trust and believe. I'm not throwing shade on this movie. I think we need to go and support it because it's telling the story. But I'm talking about if these movies, the intent of these movies should be to hold America accountable or force America to confront some of its ugly demons, then the marketing of these films need to go into those spaces. Now, I don't know if the family might, if a movie company came to my family and said, hey, look, we want to do a movie about a member of your family. We want to tell your story and you all in. I don't know if the conversation is, well, who are y'all marketing to? Which areas of the neighborhood are you going into with these posters? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if they're having those conversations. So that's the other part about this. But to go back to what you said and what Michael said, the point of it is tiring. And, you know, I don't mind having, and, you know, I know that there's this kind of like this very like crossroads that we want to be seen, our stories to be heard. We want to tell our stories. We want to be seen. We want to, you know, people to know it. But slave and Black struggle, movies about our past, movies about our struggle, as much as people might like to believe it's not a moneymaker, it is a moneymaker. And I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't, it's kind of weird. You know what I'm saying? Like if somebody were to do a movie on Freddie Gray, not a documentary, and you and I were present in Baltimore when Freddie Gray kicked off and all. If somebody wanted to do a movie about Freddie Gray, I don't know how I would feel. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, they got me in a movie. Or I would be like, if someone wanted to do a movie about Sandra Bland, or if they wanted to do a movie about Trayvon Martin, not a documentary, a movie.
Right.
I'm not sure how to feel about that. I don't know. All right, let me just take a couple of comments as folks are checking in, because a lot of people, Rashad, people are just trying to figure out like what to do. All right, let's look at this, and I'm certainly want to show the picture that Keen. I know you got the picture of Peter, just to let people know this is the story. This is Peter. Y'all know this. Y'all seen this picture. But this is the character, this is the man that Will Smith is portraying in the story Emancipation. That brother. So I just want us to keep that in mind. Now, a brother like him, his story needs to be told.
Yeah, because you only see the image and you don't really
you don't see the humanity of this man.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Which is important. So again, it's like you got all of these like pros and cons of this whole of this conversation. All right, Shalinda, you checked in and said, if Roots didn't scare us off, I seriously don't think Will Smith and his character will have an effect on us. We are desensitized to it all. I remember seeing 12 Years a Slave. Still hit me. Still hit me, Shalinda. Some of those scenes were. Some of those scenes were just a little bit too close. You know what I'm saying? And of course, I didn't live in that period, but it's still hard to watch. It's still hard to watch.
Some type of emotion. Yes, I agree. It's
still hard to watch. Ming Lee, Natasha Surge, you said they don't want to understand our struggle. That's the issue. Now, I don't know. I think we do want to do. I think people do understand our struggle. Like our struggle's been around for hundreds of years. We want freedom, justice, and equality. We want life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. We want liberation. This ain't rocket science.
Now, do they want to help us eradicate the fact that we have to navigate
That's a different conversation, bro.
That's another conversation. They know our story. They know our struggle.
To understand our struggle is the struggle of oppressed people all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's our struggle. Like, they understand it. Let me tell you, you know why I know why this country understands it? Because you make a movie about it. If you're able to make a movie about it,
that's it right there, Ferrari. Let's break down Hollywood production. You know how much research has to go into
right?
How much money, the fact that they have to study this time to reenact images, to reenact what the world looked like at that time, language, culture, dressing, music, dialect.
And to your point, and Rashad, to your point, bro. Movie companies hire historians. They hire historians to be able to as in telling that story, to be as historically accurate in some cases as possible. They hire people to do that research. This is Hollywood, folks. This thing is a well-oiled machine. I know that, you know, you can have your view about it, but the fact is, this is Hollywood. They hired, like, so I'm not talking about some rinky-dink situation here.
And it goes through years of edits before it's even made to go public.
Like Will Smith and I mean, going back to emancipation, Will Smith would not put his stamp of approval on a historical, or on a film about his people's history, because he's not a dumb man. He's not just goofy and laughing. He's not going to put a stamp of approval if there isn't some level of historical accuracy, if there isn't some truth telling. No, this is I mean, we don't like to believe that Hollywood or filmmakers have the power, just have even more power than historians and social scientists, but they do. They really do. They can rewrite history.
Probably exactly what Brother Malcolm said. They probably are the most powerful entity that influence the subconscious and the conscious mind, and is the first, I want to say, the first front line of education, especially in today's society. So we gotta look at the machine behind it. I want to know, what is the intent of it, right? Someone pitched this story. It got picked up. It found its reason. It went through so many years of revisions. It had to get to this level of being captivating to even have a main actor like Will Smith to play it. It has to have, with the movie, Till, some level of historical relevance, timeliness, and accuracy for the Till family to even validate the production of it. That what is the intent outside of the educational part? What is Hollywood's angle to this? Because we know what it would do to us.
That's it. Like, because if we don't ask that question, like, what is the intent, right? If we don't call to account, what was the motivation behind it? Don't think, and here's the other part, the timing of films. Look, I got people on my team who worked in the industry. The industry don't work off of no haphazardness. The timing of films. You got two major films, Emancipation and Till. Emancipation, the trailer drops in October. Till, the movie, drops in theaters in October, right? You got, this stuff is not by happenstance. This stuff is by design. And my point in saying that is just simple, that this stuff is created to elicit a certain response, to get it. There's a reason why, like, Black Panther is dropping in November. You know what I mean? Like all of this stuff is happening. Is all happening. I remember years ago, there was a period of movie making where we saw, and I don't know if you remember this period, Rashad, I may be dating myself, but there was a period of movie making where we saw, like, certain Black films, and I mean, like, Black directors, Black actors, Black folks behind the scenes, like Menace to Society, Boys in the Hood, some of these other type of films, very urban films that talk about the urban life and struggles of Black men. They really came out around the same time. Right. And they helped to create the culture. I remember before the Million Man March, certain films came out. You know what I mean? Back in 1995, if y'all look at what was the movies in leading up to the march. Let's look at what was the movies
to get on the bus. Yeah, right.
Get on the bus, right? But what was the movie? Like, that was a different film. That was more of like a show of, like, a homage film to the march. But I'm talking about those Hollywood films. How were Black men depicted prior to the Million Man March? If you go back to the 1963 March of Washington, what was the biggest Black films, or who was the biggest Black star at that time? I think it may have been Sidney Poitier, if I'm not mistaken. But look at what was happening, because trust and believe, films don't come out in a vacuum. Films come out as a reflection of where we are socially, politically, economically, and culturally.
Yep, and also to project where we want to be as a people moving forward into, which comes back to what you said of, like, the Sidney Poitier. It was reasons why he took certain characters, why he took certain roles, why he didn't do certain things, why he did do certain things. And so it's in that point of our arts and entertainment is always going to be the benchmark to tell us where we are in society and where we are going. And like you said, everything in Hollywood is down to the T to play its part. These movies have to be slated to get awards, to get accolades, to get great reviews, just like our music comes out in good quarters. We had to be mindful to say, okay, this is quarter one. We can expect this type of movie. All right, we're going into the holiday season. We need something that's going to galvanize and build our momentum and our spirit and make us feel good as a people. So we can expect this type of movie. But I think it all plays a part too. Is it too much? Is it timely? But also, how do we allow these movies to help us inform the next generation? And I think that's the most important thing.
That's it. And when we talk about that timing, and I know, Janine, I saw your Janine Gordon, you said some timing of movies also has to do with consideration for major movie awards. That was one of the motivations that Apple decided to release Emancipation earlier than expected, because they wanted to be considered for award season. Even though Will Smith is banned from the Academy and has resigned from the Academy, they still wanted the movie to be considered for award season. So that certainly plays into it. But do y'all think that all the talk, and this movie Till has always been in production for a minute, but the talk recently about Emmett Till, the talk about Carol and Brian, we've been having conversations about that situation, that moment in our history, just a few months ago, right? We talked about, any new books, all of that. This is not by like, oh man, this is just happening. This is by design. And my point is in saying that is that we as the consumers of media have to recognize this, right? Now, I think we should support the films. I'm not going to blast the film and say no, don't support it. But bring somebody who don't know. Help enlighten somebody through the film. Maybe you go see the film, and if you find that the film is good for some black teenagers, because black teenagers, Rashad, I'm talking about 12, 13, 15, 16 years old. They have no sense. Some of them have no sense of history, right? So I think some of you even said, yeah, sometimes people learn through the movies. You're absolutely right. So maybe the film can be used not just to entertain, but also as a way to educate, not just for us, because we know, but I'm talking about the next generation. The next generation. Bring them in, have
some conversations.
Have some conversation. You know what I'm saying? Get out of space, show it in your church, show it in your recreation center, and have some conversation. People were doing this for Black Panther. I remember people were having movie showings for Black Panther, and that's a superhero film. So if we could do that for a superhero film, imagine what we can do with a film that's been blessed by a family that have made an historical impact on our struggle.
And you said it, like, tie in the history together. What's the idea of the connectivity between a Till and Tamar Rice and Trayvon Martin, right? This is the perfect access point of exposure for our young people to see, to bring a middle school young person and say, hey, that could have been you 60 or 40 years ago. It's not to inflict trauma, but to bring the reality of the present moment that they're in by expressing blackness because they are in a black body. And that brings a place, man. If we can propel and create great revenue of a fictional character, of a superhero, and we can honor the legacy of a real person and a family that is still fighting for the struggle of justice in today's world, that speaks to it. Because if anything, Emmett Till would have been somebody's grandfather at this age.
He would. He definitely would. And I'm going to go final point. Dr. Carr, our brother, Dr. Carr from Howard University, put it out there. When he saw Woman King, he made a tweet saying that films are not documentaries. And I think that is the big part of this, that as much as we can enjoy a film, you still need to make sure that the truth is not being distorted. And I think that's the important part. I think, let me see which Culture Crew member talked about this, that we still have to make sure that the element of truth stays intact, even during these films, because some of the facts or some of the things depicted in the film may not be consistent with what actually happened in history. So, there's a time and a place for all of this. But folks, I can understand the sentiment that many of us may be tired, but unless we change some things on our cultural side, I still think that there's going to still be some more films about our struggle and about our history that's going to be made, because it's profitable and people don't always know. That's what it is. Rashad, my guy, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon. Can keep up the great work you're doing, Rashad.
Hey, always for the culture, brother. Much needed, much certainly timely and purposeful. Thank you for continuing to live in your light and your truth, brother. For the culture.
Oh, brother, thank you. Absolutely, absolutely. Folks, Rashad checking in. Thank you so much, brother, for being so good for the culture. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, oh, man, I've been wanting to have a conversation with you about this one. Al Sharpton is under some fire because he said some things about manhood. He questioned manhood as it relates to voting for gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams, who's running for governor of the state of Georgia. We're going to play for you a little bit what the good Reverend had to say and get your take on it. And I'm asking a question. Do you think that Black men have a problem with women in leadership? Ooh. We're going to be checking in with Culture Crew member Nira Muhammad to talk with her, get her insights on it, and I'm certainly going to take your comments as well. So stay with us. That conversation, plus I got something as we talk a little bit, if we get to it, we might be able to talk a little bit about bling and violence, how now PNB Rock's girlfriend finally speaks out through an Instagram post about what really happened on that unfortunate day where she had to witness her boyfriend being gunned down in broad daylight and the impact that it has made on her and the hip hop community. So we'll talk a little bit about that if given the time. So stay with us, a lot to get to. Stay with us. I'm looking forward to your conversation and your comments right here on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
All right, folks, welcome to the second hour of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Man, oh man, first hour, we had a lot to talk about from January 6th to talking about Black movies and the impact that they have on us and others. So if you missed the first hour, make sure y'all check out the replay, and we would love to hear what you have to say. And while you're checking out the replay, I hope you're streaming us. Hope you're streaming us on blackstarnetwork.com. because that is the place where you will find not just today's show, but all of our past shows, the other shows on this illustrious growing network, as we continue to have the conversations that are important to you. So just head on over to blackstarnetwork.com. Do your due diligence, support Black-owned media that is taking the conversation, media that is stating the case and telling our story like never before in a time that is needed the most. This is the space to do it, a national digital platform just for us. Make sure y'all support us at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, make sure that you'll follow all of us, Black Star Network, on our Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. And of course, that when new videos come out, share the videos. There are always notifications. Turn on that notification button, especially on the YouTube as we stream live on YouTube. Turn on that notification button as well, so you can be informed and stay posted about the conversations that are happening. Now, while you're doing that, make sure you follow me, yours truly, Faraji Muhammad. Yes, you can find me on all social media platforms at The Real Faraji on Instagram, Twitter, I'm at Faraji, as well as Faraji Muhammad on Facebook. I would love to connect with you, build with you, share with you some ideas. Many of you are already connecting with me, building with me, keeping me informed about things like my culture crew, man. Big shout out to the culture crew, my online culture crew, because y'all be like, Faraji, you heard about this? You heard about that? I was informed about the crazy meeting of the LA City Council from Tuesday night. Saw some of the videos. So big shout out to my crew for always keeping me up to date on stuff, just as much as I try to do my best to keep you up to date on things, because we are building a community here, folks. This is a community effort, and we want to continue to take our community to the next level. We build this community here, then we can build the community outside of the phone, outside of our devices. We can build the community right where we are, and we need to do that together. So your support for the station, for the network, and then more importantly, your support for those of us who stand before you is absolutely critical. So follow me on all social media platforms. All right, folks, I've been waiting to have this discussion with you. Man, oh man, because Reverend Al Sharpton, who is a longtime civil rights advocate, activist, he's been doing this work a lot of times. I know he can be a polarizing figure in some cases, controversial figure in other cases. But one thing for sure, he going to keep saying some things that's going to keep the people talking. And Al Sharpton right now, people are getting upset with the good Reverend because he questioned the manhood, the men, Black men in particular, for them questioning whether they should vote for gubernatorial candidate for the state of Georgia, Stacey Abrams. Now, Keenan, let me know if take a look at this. He claimed that you are insecure as a man if you don't vote for Stacey Abrams. Keenan, can we play this clip? I want to play this clip because I want people to hear exactly what Reverend Sharpton said and why he said.
I literally have Black men calling my radio show saying, well, we got enough Black.
Let's play that clip one more time. We want to play that. Here we go.
Empower, Ketanji Brown Jackson in the Supreme Court. We have Vice President Kamala Harris. I don't know if I want to vote for Stacey Abrams. Who would not be proud of Stacey Abrams unless you are so insecure as a man that you feel that you've got to be manipulated?
You mean men, y'all got a problem voting for a woman in power to take over? Is that where we at in 2022? You see my voice getting higher? You hear that? Because it's crazy. We got a problem with that? Oh my gosh. So I had to have one of my favorite culture crew members to join in on this conversation. She's a woman that is unapologetically a woman. Always talking about, always keeping us up to date on what women are thinking, what women may not be saying, and most importantly, why we need to have a conversation in detail about this situation She is the host of the podcast Queen Talks with Nira Muhammad. She is also a screenwriter. She is also an advocate. She's an educator, has worked in the classroom. And so we're happy to have her join us today here again on The Culture. Nira.
Hey, Faraji. It's always great to be on.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk a little bit about this. Reverend Sharpton said that you are that insecure as a man. Here's my question, because I think this speaks volumes about where we are. I'm posing the question, do you believe that men have a problem with women in leadership? What say you, Nira? Do you believe that to be the case, as Reverend Sharpton said, that some men may be insecure about voting for Stacey Abrams, another woman?
So first of all, you worded the question differently. First, you said you asked.
I said black men.
Yep, you said black, but then
I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get to that.
But check this out. But when you asked me the question just now, you did not say black men. You just
I did not say black.
And I'm glad that you didn't, because that was going to be my first thing. Men, can we just start there?
All right, there you go.
And it's funny because you just came off of talking about TV, and two of the big shows that are out currently are House of the Dragon and The Handmaid's Tale, and those are two shows with very, very strong female characters as well as narratives for women, and they are both shows that show how hard it is for men to step back and allow women to be in power or have basic rights. I mean, we're in a country now where women's rights in our bodies are being discussed without our consent. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, decisions are being made for us and for our bodies. So I think that this question you can answer this question yourself. I think anyone can answer this question themselves. But I don't want to be unfair and put like this general umbrella over all men. No, all men are not insecure having women in leadership. But yes, on a large scale, globally, men still have a huge issue with women being in power. Huge.
So, I mean, and this has always kind of been a part of the case, I think, especially in politics in America. There are a number of women who, and I'm talking about senators and from the national political space to local, women have always had to feel like they had to contend with men, not just black men, just men in general, but they had to contend with men because they had to feel like they had to do more. They had to step up more. They had to really show and prove that they could do the job. Of course, we saw this with Vice President Kamala Harris. Many people just blasted her and say, oh, you got a woman vice president. Can't she be fit for the job? This was brought up during Hillary Clinton's run for presidency. Can she do the job? So you helped me to start the conversation talking about men. Do you think that this is a man thing, or do you think this is a black man thing, especially as it relates to our sister Stacey Abrams?
Do I think that black men have more of an issue with women in power than white men?
Yeah, let's go.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
In my experience working with white men of power, they can, even with some of my white male students, they can be very condescending and very like, I'm smarter than you. And I don't always think they mean to come off that way, especially some of the younger guys who do it, younger white guys who have done it, and students that I've taught. But it's it can be very condescending, and you're just like, actually, I actually do know what I'm talking about. I actually do know more than you on this particular topic, and they don't like to fold on that. Whereas I've had a lot more black men that are like, oh, okay, go ahead, sis, go ahead, queen, take the lead, do this and do that. So I will say that it always depends upon the space that you're in.
Yeah.
How white men have a problem with white women having power. Like, let's just start there. I mean, literally, I just mentioned two shows that are like white men oppressing white women, or saying, oh, well, this white woman, she may be supposed to take over the throne, but she's a woman. She can't rule. We don't want her because she's a woman, when she's more fit than any of the men to actually rule and take over. So I think that, and we've seen that in history so many times, women are very fit to rule. Women in history have ruled very successfully, from ancient queens of Africa all over the globe. Women have proven that we are very fit to rule. but we also have to deal with the fragile male ego at times as well. So it's a lot of tiptoeing for women. Even women in business now, we're still begging to be paid the same amount as men. We're still begging to have the same seat at the table. I mean, at the end of the day, this is not new. It's sad that it's something that we're still dealing with, but it's not new.
So I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. And I feel like maybe we just need to, and one of the reasons I wanted to bring in to have this conversation is because I wanted to kind of do like a culture check on where we currently are right now. Because what Reverend Sharpton said is that I've heard this from men where we already got women. And it's almost like when people be like, well, we already got, maybe black people are doing well. Look at Will Smith. And you'd be like, but that's just one out of millions. You know what I'm saying? You might be able, if you can name, here's maybe this is like an unscientific metric. If you can name all the women that are in power on two hands, then we got a problem. If you can literally name all the women in power in general, I think that's a problem, because there's so many men in power that we couldn't name all of them. I mean, I just feel like as women, I know for me as a woman, I'm tired of having to like jump through so many hoops to prove that I'm worthy, to prove that I'm just as good for the job, if not better. And I think that women across the globe are tired of that. I mean, we're literally sitting here at a time when our reproductive, there are women who, if they're raped or if they get pregnant out of incest, they still can't abort that baby. I mean, this is the time that we're living in. So for me, I feel like women's rights are being scaled back. Our rights are being taken away. We're not progressing. In some ways we are, but on a large scale, when laws can be written that change the trajectory of women across this country, that's a problem for me. That's a huge, we're losing our power. And that's why I feel like we have to stop being quiet. We have to stop being complacent, and we have to start being like, nah, we need more women in power, because decisions are being made by men. Right. Facts. Women. Facts. Of course. Now I want to get a couple of comments from our culture crew online here. Dejima Boutique, you say, do women want to be tokenized? How about we focus discussions on qualified candidates who happens to be women? Absolutely. But I'm also in the space of, why do we keep pitting Black men and Black women against one another? Why are we saying, oh, there's already enough Black women? All right, so Black men, step the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, you're tired of seeing Black women in power. All right, so let's Black men step. Come on, we cannot act like Black women do not give Black men the space, the time, the love, the care, and the nurturing to step up. We want Black men to step up. But if you're not, we will certainly do it, because we've been doing it and we're going to continue to do it. And Black women are excelling. Women are excelling. Women are wanting more. Women are using their voices. Women are using their talents, and women are getting shit done. If you are, as a man, or have a problem with that, I agree with Al Sharpton. That is your own insecurity. That is your own ego. You got to go deal with that. Take that out with your therapist, bro, not me. All right, Janine, I hear you I see you in the chat. You getting people riled up through your messages, Janine. Janine L., my sister, you said Black women in power can be condescending as well. It's complicated. And Janine, you went on to say that, let me just share this because I want to make sure I'm getting all this. You said you can ask 20 people that had a Black woman supervisor, and I bet you 95% of them will say she didn't handle her power well and was nasty. Now, this is from a Black woman. I can 100% agree. I just talked about this on a podcast that I was on, actually. Personally, I have had more bad experiences with Black women supervisors. Is that me sitting up here saying Black women shouldn't get empowered? No, that's not me saying that. But right. I can attest to that. Like, but again, there's so many social issues that we have that are in play. There are so many social prejudices that are in play when I look back on those particular situations, my personal situations, and I'm sure other women can speak to the same thing. Those are things I don't even want to get into right now, because I don't think that they're relevant to what we're talking about in this space. But this is not about personalities right now. We're not talking about the nasty, your white male boss who was nasty to everybody,
or to the white male boss who was sexually harassing the women, or the black male boss that was, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about black men, like a fundamental, men have an issue with women being in power. That's
Facts.
the fundamental basis we're talking about right now. We're not talking about personalities. That's a whole other topic.
No, that's a whole exactly.
But I totally agree with Janine. I personally have had really bad experiences with black women supervisors, but this is not the same thing.
No, it's not the same thing. But I think to your point, it is something like what we're looking at is what I think a lot of people tend to believe, which is this false narrative that women, quote unquote, are overly emotional. Therefore, they can't, y'all can't lead in a logical, from a logical space. But let me share that this is what DeAndre checked. Let me tell you something. Oh, dudes, we over emotional. No, let's keep it real. Let me tell you, let's keep it real.
Absolutely. The ego is fragile.
Oh my God. Hey, look, let me tell you something.
Oh my God.
Look, and this is not even to be made funny. Y'all know, if you tuned into the show yesterday, I talked about the story of Asia Womack, the 21-year-old basketball player that was shot and killed by a 31-year-old black man because she beat him and was teasing. She beat him in a basketball game and she talked trash about it. And he got so upset, he literally went to the car and got a gun, came back and shot it right there on the court. And you talking about women are emotional. Please.
I mean, think about all the crime that are committed between men against, even I have relatives. I have a cousin who had he got into a physical altercation with another young black man, got upset because he didn't win the fight, went home, got a gun, came back, killed my cousin. These are stories that we hear so often. Those are decisions that are made based on emotion. There is zero logic. And if you talk to a lot of the brothers that are sitting behind bars right now, or that are even out, that are going around now sharing their story to help other young brothers not fall into the same pitfalls that they fell into, they will tell you, man, this was all about my ego. This was all, I didn't like the way he looked at me. I didn't like the way he talked to me. You don't like the way someone talked to you, so you decided, like, you know what? You deserve to die. Like, that's how upset you got. That you couldn't just let that shit roll right off. You couldn't be like, I don't even care. This person is irrelevant to me. Whatever. You got that upset that you decided to take that person's life into your own hands. But women are too emotional. Not saying women don't commit murders, because we know women do.
Right. No, I get your point, though. I get your point. DeAndre C, DeAndre, you said for Raji, a lot of men who oppose female leadership question their mental and emotional capacity to not only lead, but to handle various complex issues. I've heard this from several men in person. Some men think a woman's judgment will be clouded due to emotional imbalance, rather than focus on their qualities and qualifications, often which is higher than the men.
Where do men get this false narrative that women have emotional imbalance? What the women mature faster than men? Like, our brains develop faster than men. It's like, what are y'all even talking about? That is not even based on science. Like, and
I think DeAndre is bringing up the point that is, this is a narrative that has been kind of conditioned in us, right? Since we were children, that men always lead, women would serve. That men would take the front, women would take the back. This has been driven into us.
There's two things I kind of blame for this narrative.
Okay.
Religion and the patriarchy. Because people use religion as the basis for why women are supposed to take the back. Yeah. People always go back to that. In the Bible, this, or in the Holy Quran, they go back to in the Torah, this, the women are supposed to be this. The woman's supposed to take care of the home. The woman's supposed to be this. And these gender roles have been assigned and indoctrinated to us through religion.
Well, see, and Shimmy Z, you said, Faraji, you are patronizing her too much. Tell her the facts. What's the facts? What do you mean? I'm telling her the facts of what? Because I haven't heard a lie. Where's the lie? Where's the lie, folks? Shimmy, you gotta please. You can't distort a statement like tell her the facts.
And let me just say to this person, my background in college is in family and consumer science, bro. I am technically considered a human scientist. I've had to study human sexuality, family relations. Like I've had to study the history of the family. Like, bruh, you don't even want to go there with me.
Yeah, and Willie, and I think that this is not just, you know, going back to the piece about what DeAndre said, how people have said that women have an emotional imbalance. People today are not making good decisions. This is beyond. This is not just women. This is men. People today
was Trump an emotionally sound president?
Hell no. Hell no. He was very emotionally imbalanced. He is very emotionally imbalanced. Kanye, emotionally imbalanced. We can go down the list, but we don't have to go down the list. Let me just share with you what more folks say. My guy, Willie Frazier, you checked it and said, I mean, not all the time. I know women that will make a decision based on emotions that mess them up in the long run. It does happen to men. It does happen to men, though. I think it's a human thing. I know it's a human thing, Willie.
It's a human thing. It's funny, Friday, because I was on the phone with my cousin yesterday, right? And we're both two women, but we were just talking about, she was talking about like my reaction to like when she has told me certain things over the years or expressed her emotions. I'm gonna just put us out there. She's a Pisces. I'm a Virgo. She's extremely, extremely emotional. She takes things extremely, extremely personal. I am a Virgo. I am not an emotional person. Like, by nature, like I'm an extremely logical, scientific, does the puzzle piece fit? That doesn't say I lack emotional empathy, but I'm a very logical person. And so it's just interesting to hear men talk like that when even within my own relationships with other women, they're like, Nira, you could be a little, stoic sometimes. You could afford to be a little bit more emotional. So it's just like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, that's just not true. Even in our relationship, I think you've always been the more emotional one than me.
Okay, so let's take some more comments from our culture crew.
For real? But am I lying?
Let's take some comments from our culture crew.
Look.
It depends. It really
even in the way that we parent our children. Sometimes I can be the more stoic one, and sometimes you are the more nurturing one.
Well, here's the thing. I think that for Black men, in particular, like because we have a Black son, Black daughter, it's important that, and this has always been important for me, that it's important that I teach that our son that, you know what, as a boy, you need to learn, one, that you have emotions. You need to learn how your emotions flow during different periods in your life and how to control them. Like, don't run away from who you are. Don't run away from being a human being, right? So yes, I show that a level of emotion because I grew up in a household with my dad who didn't show. I mean, my dad was born in the late 40s. God be with him. He's 75 years old. So he's old school. Y'all know old school.
Old school.
He didn't come up with when I tell you my dad didn't come up with a silver spoon in mouth, my dad came from the bottom, right? He didn't have his father in his life. He was raised by his aunt. So he had to learn the street life. He had to go and learn about being a man. It wasn't until he joined the Nation of Islam he started understanding the role of what a man is, what a man is supposed to do for his family, for his community, for himself, and for God. So when you're talking about things, this is why it's important to even have these conversations and I think there needs to be a bigger conversation about just manhood and womanhood in this day and time, because we have gotten so far all over the place. And I think a lot of these Black men, I think a lot of us, if it depends on what era you grew up in, that you have a healthy relationship of women versus like the young brothers. Like if you're 25, you might be 23 years old, depending on who's around you, because the culture right now is showing you that you could be this crazy ass dude that you want women to serve you I mean, just some of the things that I see and hear about that of what it means to be a man, I'm like, what? And so I want to counteract that, especially with our son. I want to counteract that. I don't want a son that thinking, Dad, I'm hard and I don't want to, cry, and Dad, I'm a these chicks out here.
Yeah,
bro, you got a mother, you got a sister, and you got a father who will whip your ass if you put your hands on a woman. If you know what I'm saying? Like so it's so much. It's so much, and I think that it speaks volumes. And yeah, if you grew up in a household where emotions was not a value, showing your emotions is not a value, and then you get into a relationship with a real woman, and that can affect you. That could become a very that could become like a real barrier for you to be progressive, for you to be successful in a relationship. Yeah. And I think as men, we got to make the conscious decision, the intentional decision that, you know what, I'm going to take the good parts of who the men are from that were around me, but then I'm going to choose to be different. I'm going to choose to show my heart. I'm going to choose to show myself. I'm going to choose to be vulnerable because I want to break the cycle.
Yeah, and I think the big point that you're kind of making is that the issue in general is that our emotional IQ is low. The fact that we're even having conversations where we're like, oh, well, women are more emotional, that goes to show already that your emotional IQ is very low, because you don't even understand emotions and how they work. You don't understand the interconnectedness of how the brain works in relation to your emotions. And that's why I think that it's really, really important that we're not only teaching ourselves as adults how to strengthen our emotional IQ, but that we're also teaching children how to strengthen their emotional IQ. And I think that can be done in the classroom. It's something that I've done in the classroom. There's some really, really, really cool assignments out there that teach children how to understand their emotional IQ, how to understand their triggers, what makes me happy, what makes me sad, what makes me excited, what makes me fearful. Being able to articulate triggers, and whether they're good or bad, helps us to strengthen our emotional IQ. And there's so many different exercises that we could do, whether it's with ourselves or whole group, that will help strengthen that IQ for ourselves. So we can learn more. There's always room for improvement and for growth. But the fact that we even have these conversations, it goes to show that this is not something that is being taught on a large scale here in America. Like, we're not teaching the importance of emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. And emotional intelligence is the ability that's running the world right now. Like you have to be, and I think emotional intelligence, or understanding your emotional intelligence, is a pushback on all of these crazy, like, old school narratives and ideas of what it is to be a human being. And I think that's what it's pushing back on. Like, we can't keep going through life. We can't just act as if people and things and circumstances don't affect us. I'm good. And I mean, we've had conversations.
What we're about to do, Faraji, I feel like when I look at society right now, we're being pushed more and more and more to be accepting of people. We're being pushed more and more to be accepting of the non-binary community. Yeah. And less we're being conditioned to accept women. I think the narrative of being a woman itself is being diminished and watered down.
Wow. That's a whole different conversation, because you're not the only one that feel that way. There are a number of women, and I've been reading
from our childbirthing experience. I mean, to even say, to take away the word woman from, women give birth to people give birth, or childbearing person. I think that's disrespectful. I think that's extremely, extremely disrespectful to the centuries, to the millions of years that women have died in childbirth, especially Black women. Just to our plight and our struggles of our reproductive health. Being a woman is not easy. I remember being 26 years old and having a life-threatening miscarriage, to where my entire, fallopian tube erupted and I was dying. If I didn't get rushed to the OR, I would have died, because I would have bled to death internally. And just thinking about all the different emotional things that I had to go through just in that one experience of losing a child, of losing my fallopian tube, of being near death, the pain of recovery, the pain of surgery, just so many different things, the fear of not being able to get pregnant again, of just having all these different health issues, having, a cyst that erupted on my ovary, just different things that women go through on a daily basis, whether it's with our bodies or with our mental health. And it's just like, that's just being diminished. And that bothers me.
That's a very, very important conversation. It's a big conversation because I noticed that I've read some New York Times pieces around this, and we can't go into it today, but that is a huge conversation where I find that a number of women feel like their role and just who they are as women is being diminished. Real big. I can't get into it today, but that's real big. Let me go to.
If you talk about it, you better talk about it when I'm here.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. Janine says, "Say that, sis. I can't stand it. Women are women, and we bring life into the world, not people." That's all I'm gonna say on that one, Janine. I got you. Janae, you checked in and said, "This is why Reverend Al was provoking men to shut down this narrative. This is not the election to lose, and Stacey and DeGier need to win." Look, at the end of the day, we can't allow this these old school, thinking processes to serve as a way to keep us from the bigger picture. Stacey Abrams is a sister that has shown time and time again, and she loves black men. You know what I'm saying? Which is why it's kind of weird that some black men are like, well, why should we even vote for her? Like, she loves black men. She wants to create opportunities for black men. Black men stand with her. I stand with the sister. I don't even live in Georgia, right? Like, go and vote for the sister.
It's sad. It's even in questioning whether or not she's worthy of the position, because they're not even asking that question. They're not like, oh, she's not worthy. They're like, do we want another woman? That question, men who are asking that question, that's an emotional ass question. Just want to put that out there. You're asking, should we put another black woman? Like, you sound like
and then to add to that, to add to that, to say, well, we already got women in power. You name 4.
You sound like a bitch. Just stop. If you want more men in power, get the education, get the experience, put in the work, run against her. And stop running your mouth on the sidelines with your small resume and run against her.
Oh, no doubt.
Because if you are a real contender for what she brings to the table, then your ass can run against her. If you're not a strong enough contender to run against her, zip your goddamn lips and support her.
That's all I'm going to have to say. That's all we will say. All right, folks, look, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about the culture of bling and violence in the hip-hop world as PNB Rock's girlfriend finally speaks out after the unfortunate killing of her boyfriend in broad daylight in South LA's Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. And what does this mean for the culture? We'll have that conversation. And I'm going to give you another update about our sister, Brittany Griner. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are black beyond measure.
There we go. All right, folks. Thank you so much for tuning back into the culture here on the Black Star Network. All right, for our final conversation, I wanted to have an update discussion about what we saw with the tragedy and the killing of hip hop artist PNB Rock, who was shot and killed while dining with his girlfriend in the South LA Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles just a few weeks ago. Many have thought that the girlfriend was responsible for the killing because, you know, as a lot of people do when they go on social media, they include their location. And as a result of that, that may have alerted the assailants to where PNB and his girlfriend were and caused them, PNB Rock, to lose his life. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case now. Folks were really taking his girlfriend through the kind of dragging her a little bit about it. But now new details reveal that that wasn't the situation. Now, here's what happened. She has simply, just put out an Instagram post to show her appreciation for the Philadelphia rapper. In her post, she just talks about how the depth of their connection, their love, and it got a lot of people to say, well, what really happened? And we're going to have a conversation with Nero. Take a look at this post, y'all. I mean, it's a very, very, this has been an unfortunate situation, but it's even more unfortunate that people thought that the sister was responsible. I want to read it just very quickly. She said, as I am not 100% not okay. If I wasn't spiritual, I can kill myself, but then I'll go to hell and my man not there. My man saved my life, throwing me under that table. I'm not supposed to be here, but because of him, I am. No one would be able to handle this. To be honest, I can't even handle this. To witness what I saw and to keep seeing it in my head, to being forced out the restaurant, to not be able to go into the ambulance or the hospital, car keys, purse, and my phone taken from me, forced in the back of a police car, locked in an interrogation room all night while all this is going on, and to be the last person in this world to know my man didn't make it after having the faith and confidence that he was. I felt this time in my relationship, everything was finally perfect for our family. My man had gave himself to God, did a complete 360. He was loyal, he was patient, he was teachable and a teacher. I was finally letting the past go and letting him show up as his changed self. My last day with you. I told you, I know you, my husband. I know you are my soulmate. Even if it was for a little bit, at least we got to experience what having a soulmate is, and for that I am grateful. You told me you hated took so long. You wish you would have changed way sooner. It takes so much prayer and spiritual therapy to gain the strength to do the simple things in life now. They say your angels come and stop by and visit you, but I feel like mine is always here. It ain't no stopping by. This life we live on earth is just temporary before we get to heaven or hell, where we will spend eternity. Only thing matters in this short life is love. Anything else is irrelevant. You can't take none of this stuff with you. The devil is running loose on earth. I will never understand a loss so close. I feel so empty. My world is dark now. My heart is broken for the kids. Cover me with strength, grace, and vision to carry on for the family. Shed light on this world in such dark times. Let your power overcome evil. Pain is real, no matter how rich you are, how famous you are, how spiritual you are. Some pain is inevitable. Wow.
Sad.
And people talked about the fact that, people were really saying that she was the reason for this brother's murder. But new details revealed that a mystery man who had not yet been identified, this is according to the police report, saw PNB Rock and his girlfriend arrive at the restaurant. The unidentified man waited outside until Freddie Lee Trone, one of the suspects in the murder, arrived, and the two had a conversation before Trone left and later returned with his 17-year-old son, who is the suspected shooter. This is according to Fox 11 Los Angeles. TMZ even reported that the father-son duo were already in the parking lot when Rock and his girlfriend, Sabenhue, arrived, seemingly removing the blame aimed towards her.
I think that this is such a sad case. I'm not excusing the killers, and I'm not blaming the victim. Right. I think this is a great moment for us to take a moment to sit and look, especially for those with wealth, to take a look at what's going on in the world. What's happening with our people, what's happening in communities. We already know there's no such thing as black on black crime. Crime happens where you're closest. Crime happens because of conditions, because of the conditioning of the people, because of the lack of resources, because of the lack of, we know that LA is a city with homelessness is just, I teach in Bel Air. The school I teach at today, it's on top of a mountain, literally, with all these beautiful homes. I got to drive up this big ass mountain. And then I could drive 5 minutes away and I see nothing but homelessness. So you have to keep in mind that when people have nothing to lose, they will do anything. People have nothing to lose. They're already at the bottom. For some people, to them, their life can't get any worse or any lower than where it already is. And they're looking at you. You're flaunting your wealth. You're bragging about your wealth. You talking about what you got, what you could spend. Your kids are rolling around in little tiny Rolls Royce cars. Your kids are Gucci'd up and they 5 years old with Gucci on. And you got people out here that are like, how am I going to feed my kids? We got to keep that in mind. I'm not saying that you can't work hard and provide the things that you want for your child. I'm just saying do it with grace. Be careful. Don't put yourself, if you are going to, walk around with the big chains on and all your diamonds, don't go into communities where people are starving. There are enough places in LA where you can go where there's wealth, where you can go and 9 times out of 10, you're going to be fine. There are places in LA where there is extreme poverty.
Yeah.
And you come in there and you're flaunting how you're millions of dollars. And this is not me saying he deserved to die. Hell no, he didn't deserve that shit. Under no circumstances. He should be allowed to wear his jewelry wherever he goes. But I'm just saying, take a moment to have a little bit of empathy for the people that don't have what you have.
Yeah.
Take a moment and have a little bit of empathy for people that are sitting there wondering how they are going to feed their family. Because that's the worst. They don't know if they're going to have a roof over their head next week. Take a moment to think about the people that are less fortunate than you, because while you are living at the top, you are living in a bubble, and you're forgetting that there are people out here that can't even figure out how the hell they're going to make ends meet, while you are running around here spending millions of dollars on a piece of fucking jewelry. Think about that in a big scheme of things.
Yeah. Tiana, you said leave the drip at home. We don't need diamonds to eat chicken and waffles. Yeah.
You don't. You're not on the red carpet. And I'm not, again, this is not me blaming him. This is not me saying, yo, you deserve to die because you walked into Roscoe's. This is me just saying to anyone who's rich, to anyone who's wealthy, I don't give a damn who you are. Keep in mind that people are starving, man. The people that are supporting you, that are paying, you know, I see people making jokes about saving up to go to Beyonce's concert next year. They're like, what bill am I not going to pay so that I can go see Beyonce? That a woman who has, between her and her husband, is a fucking billionaire. She's a billionaire with her husband, and you are breaking your back trying to figure out how you're going to go pay to go see her. Like, and these celebrities don't care. They're flaunting their wealth. They are flaunting the fact that I can get you to pay $1,000 to sit and take a picture with me. They don't care about you. They don't. I'm sorry. When you're charging your fans $1,000 to take a picture of you, and you're already living in a fucking mansion on a hill in a gated community, and your fans are literally scraping pennies together trying to figure out how they're going to see you, you don't care about your fans.
Wow. And you're talking about Chris Brown. You're talking about Chris Brown and others.
This is not just a Chris Brown. This is about celebrities.
Right. Yeah.
These people are millionaires. We just, Faraji, didn't, you know, California experiences droughts often. A list just came out over the summer. We talked about this. A list came out over the summer of all these celebrities that were overusing water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whose waters were being cut because of their overusage, because they think that they're exempt from the same things that other people, the same exact boundaries or laws that other people have to follow. They think because of their power, their money, their wealth, that they are exempt. That's white, black, whatever, Latino, whatever. You know what I mean? You think that your money excuses you from the plight of the everyday people when you are outnumbered. Your privilege is outnumbered by people who have less than, by people who don't know how they're going to survive.
Yeah.
So
great point. Let me just take a couple of quotes. I mean, couple of comments as we have this conversation briefly. And folks, I feel like this conversation needs to be had, you know, more often, because people are checking in and say they appreciate you for making that known, for saying what you just said, because it puts things into its proper context. Because we often talk about celebrity culture. We love celebrity culture, right? And as much as many of us might say, no, I don't do it. We do break our necks to support our favorite celebrity in some way, shape, or form. But then at the same time, when you sit back and reflect on what is happening, what is the foundation of our relationships or of our love, quote unquote, for celebrities, you know what I mean? What does that mean? You know, that we do spend what we don't have from this situation. Very quickly, as we kind of wrap up this part of this discussion, and folks, this is a big one. Miss P said we need to get it together and come together for real. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. LJ007, people should be leery about posting their real-time locations. Heck, I turn off my location when I'm moving because I prefer to move in silence. Okay.
Yeah.
I hear you.
I know for me, I like, if I post like my location, I wait until like I've already left, because a lot of times people might be like, oh, where, like if I go hiking somewhere, I've had people like, oh, what trail is that? But I wait until I'm like gone to post that location. Or so you can, and that's another tip that you could use. If you know you went to a certain event, you know, you can wait until you're not there actually in that space anymore. I often do that. Like when we go out to eat, I'll post pictures of our food, but I often wait until we're like no longer at the restaurant. I'm fat and lazy in bed, letting it digest. So
right. Hotep Pan Africa, you said we have been well programmed to devalue our own lives in the settler colony. We must have a spiritual reawakening to bring our people out of the darkness.
And people are suffering, bro.
Right.
People are suffering. We talked about this. We went to the market the other day, and like everybody kid drinks juice boxes. You pack your lunch, you got a snack at school, you got to get them juice boxes. The juice boxes is like $2 more a box.
Right.
And you're like, $2, that ain't nothing. But when you start adding on every grocery, all the things that you have to buy you know what I'm saying? Like everything costs so much more.
Yep.
My cell phone bill was $300-something a month. It's expensive.
It's crazy.
People are struggling,
it's crazy.
Man.
Everything,
and your money is not catching up to the bills.
No, and that's the other part about it that if
I gotta get to work.
Right. So it's absolutely crazy on this, and very quickly, Ice-T put something out there very quickly. He said, "LA is a dangerous place." When PNB Rock was shot and killed, he tweeted, "LA is a dangerous place now. Doesn't matter if you are a celebrity or not." He said, "If you notice, LA rappers don't wear a lot of jewelry. Me, Snoop, Cube, Dre, Game, Kendrick, the list goes on. It's not because we're broke. LA is just a dangerous place, rapper or not. Why test the streets?"
J. Cole, Jay-Z, so many of them. Our favorite rappers do not walk around with those big chains on. I'm starting to see football players on the football field with big chains on, literally while they're playing football.
Which is madness.
It's getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand.
Yeah. So it's definitely getting out of hand. But, our hearts and prayers and condolences go to PNB Rock's family. And I'm so glad that his girlfriend was able to put out this message. And it's sad that she had to go through all of that when she was the victim.
Yeah.
She was the victim. She watched her boyfriend, her soulmate, getting shot in the chest in front of her eyes. And she was told she was responsible for the shooting and killing. That's a sad situation. So hearts and prayers go out to the family. Nira, thank you so much. I truly appreciate you. Thank you for being so good for the culture. Queen Talks with Nira is streaming right now. Make sure y'all check her out on all streaming platforms. Season 3 is in full effect. Her and I had a chance to chop it up talking about Black culture. We did our live, but check out the podcast. New episode is dropping this Saturday at 12:00 p.m. So make sure y'all do your due diligence and check her out. Queen's Talk with Nira right there. And follow her on Instagram, Queen Talks with Nira, and make sure y'all stay posted about what's going on and what's happening with the Queen. Nira, thank you so much for being so good for the culture. Truly appreciate you. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. But I thank each and every one of you for being a part of the conversation. I'm going to bring you up to speed on some other things. On Monday, we didn't have enough time today, but I'll bring you up to speed on some things relating to Brittany Griner on Monday. So make sure y'all tune in for that. Make sure y'all stay tuned at 6:00 Eastern Standard Time. Roland Martin Unfiltered RMU is coming up at you. And as always, we want you to continue to support the great work that we're doing here at Black Star Network. You can go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com. Support us financially. Support us by sharing the content. And just continue to support us. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we will certainly follow back and support me. Definitely connect with me. I want to build with y'all. I want to continue to build this great community we call the Culture Crew. So hit me up on my personal Instagram with the Real Faraji. You can also find me on Twitter at Faraji and Facebook Faraji Muhammad. I'd love to hear from you, but I appreciate each and every one of you that continue to tune in at each and every day. And I thank you for your support and always putting it out there that the culture is relevant conversation that we need to have. I truly, truly appreciate that. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk on Monday for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Folks, I might be out there taste the soul this weekend. Might be out there to enjoy the great people of Inglewood. So I just can't wait to be in the streets talking to my people and hearing and seeing what's going on in the streets of LA. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. God willing, we'll see each other on Monday. Have a great weekend and peace.